Oh, that's real good.
Hello everyone, and welcome to our channel Penny Lesson. We talk about everything finance, from tips on making money and proper investing to news about the different economies and situations affecting the global markets. The goal of this channel is not only to teach you how to be more financially responsible but also to teach you how to be more aware of global events. So why not just sit back and relax while we tell you what's happening in the finance sphere? Be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell to be constantly updated on my latest videos. Remember, one penny lesson a day keeps being penny less away. Although the destruction left people's psyches traumatized, the economy remarkably recovered. The stories that parents passed down to their offspring. 1929 began to represent a pivotal turning point in people's perceptions. If you stated 1929, it was like 1776 or 1492. In 1929, when he was 26 years old, my dad worked as a security salesman for a small local bank. At the time, he was employed there. He dealt in stocks and bonds, but equities were his primary focus. And when stock prices dropped by 48%, and you were only a few months ago selling those stocks to individuals, you don't have the want to go out and face those same people. Consequently, I believe that my father decided to remain at home. Since I was born approximately 9 months later, under those circumstances, I was unaware that the market was closed at the time. Yet, the stock market had recovered over 20% during the subsequent 9.5 months or thereabouts. The fall of 1930 was a time when people did not think. They were under the impression that they were not experiencing a severe economic downturn. They believed it to be a recession similar to those that had occurred at least a dozen times before, albeit not always during times when stock markets were vital. However, throughout that time, the United States experienced many recessions, and this particular one did not appear to be anything that was much out of the ordinary. Approximately 10 days following my birth, there was a 1% to 2% increase in the market's value. After that time, the stock market's weight dropped from 240 to 41, which was a significant drop. If someone had given me $1,000 on the day I was born and told me to invest it in the stock market, I would have turned that into $170 in under 2 years. That is something that none of us who are currently present have ever had the chance to experience. It's possible that, on occasion, we've been successful with a single stock, but in terms of having a broad range, America's market dropped 83% in 2 years and 89% from its peak on September 3, 1929, which is an astounding amount. During that time in between, my father went to the bank where he worked and had his account, and of course, the bank had a sign on it that said closed, which meant that he was without a job. At that point, he was a father to 2 children. Charlie and I both worked for my grandfather, despite his father owning a grocery business. 1940 was the year that Charlie worked there. Because I was working in 1941, my grandfather told my father not to worry about his groceries because he would just let my father's bill run. Howard, my grandfather said to my father, "I'll just let your bill run." And I don't believe economists like to give it that much of a point of importance in general, but our experience would have been very different if we had the FDIC when we were going through this crisis. I have faith in the existence of the Great Depression. People tend to point the responsibility at Smoot-Hawley and the margin restrictions implemented in 1929. All of those factors brought about that downward economic trend. But if over 4,000 financial institutions throughout all 48 states fail, it affects people's mental health. The formation of the FDIC is often cited as a positive consequence of the Great Depression. Things might have turned out differently if the financial institutions in our country hadn't all collapsed at the same time. The Great Depression lasted a very long time, but it continued for much longer in people's thoughts. When World War II broke out, our nation accepted Keynesianism more or less unintentionally. There was a significant improvement in the economy. However, the minds of the individuals had been so severely scarred. 1929 began to represent a pivotal turning point in people's perceptions. It was the 4th of January in the year 1951. The youngster was born on the 30th of August, 1930, and he graduated from college before the stock market returned to where it had been. Therefore, consider 1929 to 1951 and remember that the country had just been around for 140 years when this began. That's just 20 years from our great nation's incredible 231-year history. There was no expansion of the economy throughout that time. It took all of that time to restore in the market a price level equivalent to what it was when I was born 20 years earlier. This took place after a period of volatility in the market. We don't know how it came out, and people in the 1930s didn't know how it would come out either. If you assume that we'll be enduring many more months after the few months we've already taken, then you're wrong. Despite this, they persisted through the hardships, succeeded, and ensured that the American miracle would carry on. It's fascinating that the Dow Jones Industrial Average was only around 280 points when 1954 began. I will never forget 1954 since it was my most successful year trading stocks. The Dow Jones Industrial Average increased to roughly 400 by the end of the year, having begun the year at 280. When it hit 400, everyone wondered, is it 1929 all over again? That assertion isn't entirely plausible, considering that 1954 occurred in a different nation. However, that was the question that everyone asked. The fact that the 381 of 1929 had been successfully contributed significantly to its level of concern. Senator J. William Fulbright served as the chairman of the Banking Committee in the Senate and advocated for a specific probe. He was speculating as to whether or not we had constructed another house of cards. He gathered 20 of the most brilliant brains in the United States to testify about whether or not we had lost our heads once more. The Dow was at 400. And although we'd been in much worse trouble in the past, this was still the positive mentality that pervaded the country. When Ben Graham testified that the Dow was at 404, he put one line right in the beginning. At the time, we didn't believe America was what it was. He said, "The stock market is high, looks high. It is lofty but not as high as it appears." Since then, we have experienced the full force of the American tailwind, and when we made the slide, the Dow was over 24,000. So, you're looking at a market today that has created $100 for every dollar. You didn't need to read the Wall Street Journal. You didn't need to look up the price of your stock, and you didn't need to pay a lot of money and fees to anybody. All you had to do was trust in America. You just had to believe that the American miracle remained intact. But you had this testing period between 1929 and 1954. And people had lost trust in what America could do to some degree. We realized nothing could stop America when you get to it. It's possible that the scariest possible outcome stopped it in its tracks. Nevertheless, in the end, the response has never been against America, a statement that is just as accurate today as it was in 1789 and was even valid through the height of the Depression and the Civil War. Wow, was that news? Why not ponder it? Want to know the latest? Comment if you want more articles like this. This video is just one of many videos on my channel that brings you the latest news about the world of global finance and economics. So go hit that subscribe button if you don't miss out on content like these. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. Thank you for all your support, and I'll see you again next time. Remember, 1 penny lesson a day keeps being penny less away. Cheers.